All right. Hello, everybody. It is very weird to not see you, but welcome to Leap's Sidebar Cafe and CLE. We will be and thank you. There's a group of you who's already on. So since you're here early, and thank you, can you put in the chat? We at Leap love to have interaction, and because I know a lot of you probably have fatigue, Zoom fatigue, but if you could put in the chat where you're watching this from, and what I mean by that, like what city, are you a Leap fellow? Are we really want to know who the attorneys are? So let us make sure the chat is on. Okay, so yeah, if you could just let us know. Um, all right, so Los Angeles, Palm Springs, okay, Santa Clara. All right. Let's see. Do we have any attorneys yet? Let's see. Temecula. Hello, Carla. All right. So it's just 6 o'clock. Attorney, not a leaf. Okay, great. Attorney, great. All right. Okay. Of course, we love the Leap Fellows. We love anyone who's coming, but for the attorneys especially, this is our second CLE webinar that we're doing. So we're really excited. All right, Anna. Good luck. Um, wow, you just took the February bar. So you must be getting results in the next month or so. That's always fun for all of us who are attorneys. We'll never forget when we got our bar results. I know, right? I still remember, and it was many years ago. Oh my goodness. Doesn't matter how many, but all right. So if you're just joining us, please put in the chat whether you're an attorney, if you're a LEAP fellow, and what city and or state that you are watching this from. We would appreciate it. We are recording, and a recording will be sent to you. And we want to make sure that when you have a question, that you put it in the Q&A. So don't put it in the chat, but please put it in the Q&A. And towards the end, we will have at least 10 minutes for questions to our panelists, because our panelists are amazing. I know that many of you will have questions. So just make sure that it's in the Q&A and not in the chat. So I know it's only 6:01, but we're going to get started because you guys are all on time. Thank you so much. My name is Cindy Lopez. I am the CEO and founder of LEAP, Legal Education Access Pipeline. We are a diversity pipeline. We're not afraid to say that in this day and age. We are proud of it, actually. We help underrepresented students get into law school. We're now in our 7th cohort, which I cannot believe. It's very scary. In May, we're going to have our 3rd graduating class. So if any of you, especially the attorneys who don't know about LEAP, we would love for you to go to our website, legalpipeline.org, and look around. And if you're interested, of course, I'm going to do the thing I love to do the most. And if you feel in the mood to donate, please feel free to. So quickly, I'm going to introduce our panelists, and they're amazing. So we have Taylor Tieman, who is Taylor I've known now for, I can't believe it's been 7 years. She does copyright and trademark, and actually Sidebar Cafe, which is the name of these webinars, I hired her as my copyright attorney. So she's the reason why that is now. We can put like that little R. So Taylor, can you unmute? And we always like to start these panels by asking our panelists for a fun fact about themselves. And when I say fun fact, I mean something not related to the law. So something really fun about you that if they Googled, they wouldn't find out, or they couldn't see that.
I put this on my website and I like post about this sometimes, but I am very into astrology. I like practice astrology and actually use that with my business planning. So that's something fun that people might not know.
I didn't know that. What's your sign?
Cancer.
Cancer. I'm Sagittarius. I'm a total Sagittarius, although I'm right at the cusp.
Mm.
Okay, thanks, Taylor. And then Ibiere, she is Ibiere. I met in law school because I had a scholarship at Loyola, and Ibiere applied for it. And when I met her, I'm thinking, good Lord, this woman is a powerhouse already in law school. And when you hear what she does now for a living, so she used to work for the Cochran firm, but now she has her own firm. And she when a firm doesn't want to do a trial or they don't have the skills like she does, she will literally take their file and do the trial. And she does real. Ibieri, I need to take some of our fellows to go watch you because I'm sure that you kick butt. She does really intense cases. So Ibieri, what's your fun fact?
Well, thank you, Cindy. It's been many years, and I love to see this all come full circle. You went from giving out money to sharing wisdom and really ushering in our next generation of trial lawyers. So I'm excited about that. Welcome, everyone. A fun fact about me is that when I was in high school, I got really involved, really interested in capoeira Angola. It's an African Brazilian martial art, and it's a martial art disguised in a dance. And I used to compete and train all over the United States. And I spent a wonderful summer in Brazil training with some incredible masters. And you would not find that on Instagram. You would not find that on my website. But if you ask me to do a cartwheel, I will gladly do it because I used to do them all the time. So, fun
I
fact.
love that. I love that. See, this is the stuff that you wouldn't find out, right? I love this. And then Demetria. So Demetria, I just met a couple years ago, and she has come and talked to our fellows on a panel similar to this. And her practice is in family law. So Demetria, and she is a mom. Oh, you're all moms. That's right. All three of you are moms. Demetria, what is your fun fact?
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. This is always a very fun time for me. My fun fact is my grandfather was the first Black fire chief of LA County.
What? Okay, that is, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
He has since passed away, but yes, he was the first African American to do it in LA County, and that's probably where I get so much of my ambition from.
Oh my God. Okay, that's good. That's a good one.
Thank
All
you.
right, and last but not least, we have Drew, who is our moderator. And Drew, oh my gosh, I totally forgot what your area of practice is. You can introduce yourself and say your fun fact.
I'm an employment lawyer. I run my own practice as well, and I do employment law for
That's
planning.
right. That's right.
Um, yeah, my fun fact is, I'm distinct from all the panelists here in one very material way, in that I'm not a mom. Um, no, the real fun fact is that I'm a pretty seasoned yoga practitioner, and you might not be able to tell by looking at me, but I can do a handstand for about 2 minutes and can comfortably do the splits.
Okay, I'm a little blown away by this. All right. So we have Ibieri who can dance, and then you can do the splits and you can do a headstand. All right, this is awesome. This is why we do this. This is why we ask. All right. So again, just want to make sure if you're joining us late, if you're a fellow or a student or an attorney. Oh, Florida, I love it. Let us know where you're from. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. And Drew, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and very grateful for the opportunity to interact with these very impressive professionals. The first thing that we were going to discuss is essentially what it's like to start your own practice and the decision to start your own practice. But before we get to that, we'll talk about some of the learning objectives for the seminar. So what we would like for everyone to do after completing the seminar and listening to these excellent panelists is essentially get a little bit more information about what it takes to start your own law practice, if that is something that is interesting to you and part of your career aspiration. We'll be talking about the different business models and the different ways that lawyers can run their practice, the different ways they can charge fees, as well as navigating certain regulatory requirements for the specific state bars that you are subject to in your licensure. And then also, we'll talk about some of the different considerations when you're considering your marketing practices to make sure that you're staying in compliance with the ethical rules. So moving on to the next slide, and make sure you get on top of that because you don't want to miss the opportunity to get some juicy CLE in addition to this excellent education that you're about to receive. All right, so the first topic that we're going to talk about, and this is going to be something that is open to the entire panel, is why is it that you individuals might want to start their own law practice and some of the considerations. So why don't we start with Ibiere and give some of your thoughts on this topic and some of the considerations that went into your decision to start your own practice.
Well, thank you for that. I will say that I'm just reading off some of the things here that I see on the slide, the autonomy, the flexibility, the opportunity to serve underserved communities, ability to specialize in passion areas, financial independence. I checked all those boxes. There were so many motivations. I did spend the first 10 years of my practice, however, working at a traditional law firm. In that traditional, you have a managing partner, you have a senior partner, you have a junior associate, you have an associate, you have a paralegal, and you have a legal secretary. And then that makes up the law firm along with other practice areas. I focused on very specific practice areas. But when it came time, there's a time in my practice, probably around year 7, where I was no longer afraid of the work. I felt like, oh, I kind of get it. I know what it means to be a lawyer now, and it takes time to get there. But not confident enough, I think, to start my own practice. And you'll meet Demetria, who did this. I mean, right out the gate. That's not many people do that. So it took me a while to find the courage to do so. But really, it was because I reached a point in my career where I wanted to make my own decisions. I wanted to choose the cases that I worked on. I wanted to try more cases. And at the firm that I was at, I wasn't getting as many trial opportunities, and whatever was put on my desk, that's what I worked on. I also was a mother, and it was important for me to be able to spend more time with my children. You can still do that at a traditional firm, but I knew that I wanted to really build a practice that where I could incorporate my family into it. I wanted to build something that I could pass on. It was about my legacy. And I really like the idea of being my own boss, my own business owner, building something and seeing my name on the door. So those were some of the motivating factors. I will say that if I could go back, if I felt like enough more confidence, I probably would have started my firm earlier. But I do believe the time I started my firm was the right time. I had already a reputation in the community, a lot of support from members of the bar. And so my transition from a firm, a traditional firm to a sole practitioner was pretty easy. And I'm really grateful for that. So.
Was there any kind of, I would say, big event or like a final straw or like something that happened to you that made you decide this is the time. This is the time to go out and take the plunge?
Well, I will say there was a point where I did feel like I did outgrow my firm that I was at and the work that I was doing. And I do feel like there were more opportunities available to me. I don't think there doesn't always have to be a, a a moment in time where like you have like this aha moment. Most of the people that I know who go out and start their own practice, they've always had it kind of in the back of their head that one day I'm gonna run my own practice. And then you have some folks who just they go out on their own because that's just what was thrust upon them. Maybe there was downsizing at the firm. Maybe they were let go. Maybe they decided they don't really like the sort of work that they're doing and they want to do something completely different. Uh, there are not variety of reasons, but whatever the reason, I think the purpose of this panel is to impress upon you all that it can be done. It can be done, and it can look so different for everyone. There's no one way to do it, and it really is a great opportunity to build your dream job, your dream practice. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing from Taylor and Demetria. But great question, Jill. Thank you.
So that was, I appreciate that. And it sounds like for you in your journey, you had to come to some realizations about the limitations of what your career was going to be like as you were working for another firm. Although some people, like Demetria, get started a little bit sooner than that before having to learn those hard lessons about working for others. So Demetria, why don't you share a little bit about your experience and what motivated you to get going and starting your own firm right from the jump?
Thank you. Well, Ibiere, I did work for a firm for 6 months, okay? So I I got a little experience. For me, I really, really enjoyed the work of family law, which I did not think I would, but I did. So right out of law school, I went to work for a firm that was a family law firm. And I really enjoyed the work, but to Iberi's point, I did not like the full structure of the firm at that time. At that time, we didn't have work from home, we didn't have remote. You had to be there, you had to go into court. And I didn't have a family at the time, but I knew I eventually wanted to, and I knew I wouldn't do well with that structure. So I had a mentor at the time who out of nowhere said, "Why don't you open your own law firm?" And my parents were county workers. I didn't have anyone in my family that went to law school. I didn't have anyone that had a business or any, background in this area. So I was definitely afraid. My entire family thought I was crazy. My friends and colleagues thought I was crazy because I was 24, 25 at the time. But I took the leap of faith, and I think it helped that I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I don't know if I would do it all over again, but I did it. And I think that's a little harder route because you don't really have a good understanding of the field. I was 6 months out, so it was a lot of on the job learning. And so that was challenging. And because I was so young, again, there's a lot I didn't know about business, about practicing, about how everything fit together. I eventually figured it out, obviously, but that for me, I can say now that is the harder way. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is the harder way. I think there is something to be said about getting the experience, kind of navigating the field. I mean, it doesn't have to be 15 years, but it can be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I did. I took the leap of faith. I did it. A lot of work, right? A lot of going out, meeting people, networking, creating your reputation. I think that's probably the hardest and the most important thing that you're going to do, right? That your colleagues can trust that if they're going to refer someone to you, you're going to take care of that person. Friends and family refer someone to you, you're going to take care of who they refer. Not you're going to be perfect, but you're going to do what you said you're going to do and you're going to show up. And that takes time, right? So I started 6 months out of law school, but I don't think I am who I am. I think that took a good 10 to 12 years for people to start to say, oh, okay, Demetria is in this field. Demetria is an expert in this field. So it definitely takes time. Opening your own practice is work. It is dedication. It's doing it when you don't want to do it. It's doing it when you're like, oh, maybe I go on LinkedIn and see what's here. Right? It's you have to stick to it. But I will say, although I'm saying don't do it how I did it, I will say it's probably the one of the best decisions that I've made. And now my practice is centered around my son. I have an 11-year-old, so it's important for me that I get to take him to school. It's important for me that I pick him up and get him to whatever he's doing. So that's definitely one of my biggest motivations now. but it is probably the best decision that I've made in my career.
Thank you for sharing that. And your experience is actually kind of similar to mine. I hung a shingle right out of law school as well, and
Hmm.
I relate very well to all the fear and the pain of that.
Right. Yes.
Sometimes fear and pain does encourage growth.
Hmm.
So, Taylor, when you started your firm, and I'm sure that you share some of Demetria's experiences of the scariness and some of the feeling as though you don't know what you're doing and you're navigating like something that is completely new. What would you say what was the biggest challenge for you as you were starting out on your own and getting your firm set up?
Ooh, biggest challenge. I think just not knowing how to run a business. I don't think I really thought through what running a business would look like. I had never owned one. Nobody in my family are business owners, so kind of glad I didn't know because again, like to be sure I probably would have been much more fearful and maybe not have done it. But the business aspect, now I have a lot of fun and I love the business side of it, but it is very difficult if you've never done it before and you have no idea what you're doing. The law, like you'll pick it up, we're all smart enough, or you have the experience from previous firms. The business part for me is still like the most difficult, but it's the most fun.
What did you do to kind of shore up that knowledge to about the business aspect of running a law firm?
I immediately hired, I guess you could call them like a consultant, but they're two lawyers who were teaching other lawyers how to open a firm. And that was an expense that was out the gate, like an immediate 3K, 4K, but I had saved up for that because I wanted somebody to teach me how to do it. I'm just that type of person. But yeah, I immediately was just like, how do I get this firm off the ground? And they taught me a lot of things that were really helpful that I would have taken a while to figure those things out.
All right, thank you. Can we go to the next slide? All right, so as for your personal journey, and we'll stick with Taylor for a second. Was there any case that came up early in your tenure as a law firm owner that really stuck with you and made you feel like this was the right move? You're muted, so we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, thanks. I don't know if it's a case or a client specifically, but I will have consultations sometimes where I'm just like doing my thing and talking to the client, and at the very end, they will go on like a 5 minute like thank you of I didn't ever want to talk to a lawyer, like I was really nervous, and you get reminded of the value of what you're bringing to them. And every time I have those clients that are super thankful, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely in the right spot.
Now, Ibiere, is there anything that you, where you are now, and with the success you've enjoyed since starting, is there anything that you wish you would have known a little bit better or would have done differently as you were getting started to make the process a little bit easier for yourself?
Um, I can't think of anything specifically because, like Taylor, I had been, well, one, I had been preparing, I think, in my mind. Like before I even went out on my own, I had already formed an entity. So I was working at a law firm, but I had had Sec Law for years. Uh, and it really it allowed me when it was time for me to just go out on my own. I had already had the structure was in place. So but it was because I wanted to plan ahead. So you can have dreams of having a solo and practice and still work at a firm and really be laying the groundwork. You could be building a reputation. You could be thinking about referral sources. You could be beginning the process already you've already undergone the process of forming your entity. So there are things that I was doing well in advance. I think what I would what I would advise people to do is I do think it is helpful to hire a consultant. Like it seems like wow, money already going out the door, but trust me, it will save you so much time and money in the long run. I could have, as a lawyer at the time, a 10-year lawyer, formed my own entity. I could have done all of those things it was just easier for me to pay someone like Taylor $3,000. Go ahead, handle that for me, and know that it's done correctly. Um, Also, the advice that I received, and I would pass this along, is that when you're starting, there are so many different ways to start your own practice. I say talk to several people, three or more solo practitioners that you know, get a sense of what it is that they're doing. Many of them will be willing to offer you their documents, their templates. They'll tell you what their business plan was, and then you see what feels right for you. As you know, my practice. From the introduction is very different than other people's. No one I knew had a practice that looked anything like mine. If you want to know what my business plan was, it was me sitting on a hammock and thinking to myself, if I could have a dream job, what would it look like? If there were 10 things that I would never want to do again as a lawyer, what would they be? And they included a whole bunch of things that I was doing at my old firm. And I said, no more, no more. So that was my business plan. So that's what I wish I would have probably known that before, that I could create the firm that I would want, my dream firm. I could do it. Uh, I wish I would have known that earlier. So,
Thank you. Can we go to the next slide? So Demetria, um, and I'm directing this to you because you talked quite a bit about the challenges and the fear and what you had to overcome when starting your firm. Was there anything that you experienced that you felt, wow, this is a unique challenge because I am a woman of color, and and that really sticks out to you in the process of getting started?
I think it still happens now that I am the court reporter or I'm the assistant. I am waiting for the senior attorney to appear. You name it, I have experienced it. Or not just being respected by my peers, not so much anymore. I think I've been around enough, but it took years for people to say, oh, okay, she is legit. Despite how prepared I am, despite everything I've done, despite all my accolades, it took years to be respected. It took years. Like I said, sometimes people still say, "Oh, are you waiting for, the supervising attorney or whatever?" And it's like, I am all of it. So, um, that was challenging, right? Because I was learning how to run a business. I'm learning how to practice law, and I'm also dealing with all of and sometimes I don't think it was, mean, or people just make assumptions that they shouldn't. And so I had to navigate that. Family law is still a male dominated field in the law. So in a lot of ways it has the good old boys network. So it was navigating that. It was proving that I was just as good as those good old boys, and overcoming the hurdles of thinking I'm someone other than the attorney. So I think that all comes with it, and you learn how to navigate it. Unfortunately, as women and women of color, you will have to be, in most cases, more prepared than your counterpart, and that's just what it is. It's not right. It was hard to kind of adjust to that and learn all the other things that we're talking about, but that is still one of the things that still stands out today. But it was worse when I started.
When I was starting out, people mistook me for a cop, which I feel is substantially less insulting than being mistaken for, support staff
Right.
but but that is something that I've heard a lot of women say in their practice in law, and women of colors especially, about the implicit bias in which
Right.
people that have been around the block for a long time treat
But
them.
I will say it does, for me, it inspired me to be the best, right? So, although it's not great who wants to experience it, but it did inspire me to really become who I am in the field. So,
and can
it
I
was
just add to that?
inspiration.
Yeah, thank you for that, Demetria, because I mean, we could have a whole webinar on just
Hmm.
the challenges of being
Right.
women of color in the legal profession, right? But I also think that there are some, at least my experience has been tremendous tremendous benefits. One, I'm incredibly unique, right? Nobody does what I can do in the courtroom. I believe that, okay? And especially when you're in a profession where there is a there is a there is a type when it comes to trial lawyers, for example. There's a type. So when I come in and I do my thing, I immediately stand out. People stop, they listen, right? They remember me more importantly. So if you're prepared, if you're courteous, if you're responsive, you're doing all the right things, not only are you a great attorney, people remember you. They remember you. So I do think that that is an advantage, or at least I've chosen to see that as an advantage. So I don't want people to leave any sort of seminar from this day forward thinking that you are disadvantaged because you are an attorney of color. I actually think it's the opposite. It is your time to shine, and own it. Step into the spaces, take up as much space as possible, make your name known, do the work, make sure people don't forget you, and then live a happy, successful life. That's it.
No, I love that, and how you can take an unfortunate phenomenon, which is that people have implicit bias about things and they have their prejudices, and turn that into a strength and really shine through that. And I think that that is a great message, and very excellent way of looking at things. So I want to pivot to the next slide, and we're going to have Ibiere be the spotlighted speaker for this section. This is about building your own practice and some of the
Okay.
more nuts and bolts practical considerations of what needs to happen as you're getting started. So,
Sure. I know that I have a few slides and I'm looking at the time and I want to be mindful of it. So I might just breeze through this but I do invite people to ask questions if they have them so I can give more direct answers. And then also I will provide my information in the chat so you can email me or call me if you have any questions. But as I go through these slides, I'll just kind of tell you what I did and what I see other people do. I see some folks online that I know who are solo practitioners too, so they may be able to comment in the chat as well about their own personal experience. Let's have a dialogue. So my office options were this. You saw on the earlier slide. You ideally you want to have 6 to 12 months of money saved up before you start your own practice. If I had 6 to 12 months of money saved up to start my practice, I would not start my practice. I'd be off in another country having a good time. I, I, I did not have that. I had the potential to make good money, and the potential came from the cases that I had. The real resource I had were my relationships. When I told people I was going out on my own, they said, "What do you need?" They they rolled out the red carpet. There were people who said, "Do you need office space?" Yes. Okay. Do you have money? No. No worries. Please, there's a desk in my office. You may have it for as long as you need it. That's what people were doing. I kept my overlet incredibly low. So you have virtual options now. You can have virtual office space. You don't even need to leave your home. I spend most of my time at this little desk right here. My court appearances, doing these sorts of things. You don't need physical office space anymore if you don't want it. Okay. Executive suites, co-working spaces, all of it is available to you. Be creative, be creative. And if you are going to use your home as an office, I'll leave these to the tax experts. There are benefits to that too. You could deduct some of that. But next slide. Thank you, Drew.
yeah. All right, let's go to the slide where it talks about the practice management software. So keep going.
Okay. So practice management software, one, we're going to talk a little bit, well, we're on, it looks like, okay, practice management software. So it is important. This is state bar, is required by the state bar that when you have a case file, you keep, it has to be preserved in the event the client wants to leave, say you fire them or they fire you and they want to take their file to someone else, you need to be able to hand that over to the client in a complete file so that they can get the help that they need from their next attorney. You could be audited by the state bar for a number of things. So you just want to make sure that everything that you're doing is well documented. My legal assistant, was a good, I don't know, I'll say decades older than me, and she was always teaching me something. And what she would tell me is, Ibiere, if it takes you longer than 60 seconds to find something, you are not organized. Get on it, right? So I had to really start creating systems. Now there are so many different um, uh, products out there that help lawyers manage their practices uh with AI now. Oh my gosh, you're inundated, and it does it for you. Careful about the AI though; it's still artificial, right? Don't rely on too heavily. It's an aid, not a substitute. But you want to make sure that you have a system to track every case that comes in from the time you get the call. Because if you don't take the case, you still need to send a rejection letter all the way to the point where you're filing a lawsuit through litigation and maybe even on trial. So there are a number of options available to you. If you're curious, you can literally go online to Clio, My Case, Practice Path, there's Smokeball, there's Eve, which is not on there, is really popular. And you can set up a free 30-minute demo. I've worked with a lot of these different programs because I have to work with a variety of law firms. And so I've had to just get familiar with a few of them. You find the one that you like the most. So you see the key features that you need. You need a calendar, deadlines, critical. The one thing I'd learned in my practice is that mistakes happen. All sorts of bad things can happen. You can, oh gosh, I don't even go into some of the things that I did wrong. But one of the things that the partner that I worked with first told me initially was like, don't worry, Ibiere, don't panic. Things happen. Um, the only thing you need to worry about is a blown statute of limitations, right? So you make sure whatever you do, you know when it is time to file that lawsuit if you need to file that lawsuit. Everything else, there's an app for that. There's a code section that will get you out of that little quandary. You will be okay. But this is why we have calendaring. For those of you who are going to be doing work or interested in doing work where you're actually not contingency, so I get paid only if and I win, and I don't bill my hours. I don't track my hours because I don't need to necessarily unless I'm doing an employment matter. But if you're billing hours, the ethical thing to do is only bill for the work that you've done, and you have to track it. So you need a time tracking system. And so that's very important. So many options available to you. Just go out there, uh, do a, do a trial run with a few, and I'm sure you'll find one that works.
What's your favorite personal?
Um, Someone else doing it for me. That's my favorite. That's like someone else, not me. But my favorite, I suppose, is, I mean, if it's just me looking, it has to be intuitive. I don't want to have to read a manual. I have so many other things going on. I need to be able to look at really clear tabs. No, it needs to have a nice flow. But Clio's really popular right now, and I mean, there are a lot, but it just depends on the sort of work you're doing, your practice area, the complexity of your cases, the number of cases in your firm. There are a lot of factors.
Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. And I think do these considerations about the client relationship pipeline, would they fit
Yeah.
into your decision about which like software and which tools you would want to use?
Not necessarily. So I'm gonna reframe this a little bit. Client relationship management. One, I do think it's important when it comes to the software you're using to stay organized. That does directly relate to your client relationships because uh, one of the things that I prided myself in doing when I was a younger associate is that I communicated a lot with my clients. The phone, I get calls from people all the time saying, I have a lawyer, I'm looking for a new one. And 90% of the time, they're looking for a new lawyer is because their current lawyer is not communicating with them. Okay. And so if you have some of the client software now, what it does, it is automated. So At any time something new happens in the case, it gives you a prompt or a notification to reach out to the client, or it does it itself. Send an email, send a letter, and there's something about that exchange between yourself, the lawyer, and the client that I think is really important. And as someone who actually sees cases all the way to the end of trial, one of the things that is most important to me is the client. The client has to trust me. The client has to trust me. And if for no other reason, because there will be a day when I call them on the phone and I'm going to say, we're either going to trial and I need you to trust that I'm going to get you justice, or I need you to settle this case and trust me. You need to take this money. So, and I can't get there unless I have a really good relationship with them. But in terms of like marketing and branding and all that sort of stuff, I mean, there's so much out there. That's a whole other seminar, webinar. I think the most important thing is like whatever you need to do for people to see your face and know your name, so long as it's not illegal, do it. Just do it. Do it. People need to know who you are and the work that you do. That means your hairdresser, that means your mechanic, that means your sister out of state. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs to know that the work you're doing. That's how you're going to get business. And then in terms of your colleagues, they also need to know that you're going to do good work for the people that they send your way.
Okay, so we've got about 30 more seconds before we have to move on to the next section. So could you say just one or two words about what you think is the most important consideration for cybersecurity in protecting
Oh,
the integrity of your
well, so most
pretty
important thing for cybersecurity, careful with the AI and ChatGPT uploading documents in there. I don't know a ton about this, but I imagine anything in clouds. Yeah, I'm not comfortable with it. The most important thing in terms of my work is, you have to protect the privacy of your clients. That means their medical records, uh, that there are HIPAA violate, there are all sorts of things. And then confidentiality, things that your clients are sharing with you, making sure that you're not posting online, inadvertently copying to emails, that sort of thing. Just being diligent, just being diligent. Don't we don't want state bar complaints.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank
Yes.
you very much, Ibiere. I really appreciate
My
the
pleasure. My pleasure.
explanation of the practical consideration. So we're going to move to the uh, client acquisition strategy slide. And we're going to introduce back Taylor Tieman to talk about client acquisition strategies and the way that she has learned how to maximize her effort in that area. So, what can you tell us about your method of getting clients to sign with your firm? What would you say is the most common source of work for you?
Yeah, so when I first started, I focused heavily on social media to get the word out, which luckily worked because I really love social media and the marketing side. Not everybody loves that, but I'm operating kind of under the assumption that if you're going out on your own, you might be stuck doing the marketing. So socials is a really great way. I think it really also depends on like knowing your target audience, which is just a general business concept, but you need to know where your clients are hanging out and where they're going to potentially want to be able to find you. Litigation clients are very different from transactional clients. They're going to be in like a different mindset looking for an attorney. So trying to go down that rabbit hole where they're going to ideally find you. We use socials. I think that socials in general, having a presence these days, it doesn't have to be super consistent. You don't have to be posting every single day, but a lot of people that are hiring tend to like look at social media to like go see what you're like if they're hiring a single solo practitioner. So I think at least having some sort of presence is important. You don't have to be on there 24/7 like we are, but I think socials are important along with like website and all the other good stuff too.
Which social media platform has been the most trafficked for your firm?
We used Instagram very heavily, but it worked out well because Instagram was a high engagement social media platform. Kind of shifted over to like TikTok in the past couple of years. I hate TikTok. I don't like it, so I didn't really get on there super consistently, but a lot of attorneys I feel like who love being on video did very well over there. So TikTok is a really great spot. Now we currently use Threads, which is connected to Instagram to just talk a lot about what we do. I personally don't love doing like the video thing. So I think finding what you're comfortable with, if you are going to be using social media, don't like force yourself to do stuff that you don't love because it's going to come through your video. It's going to come through your content. That's what I found. So those are some of the platforms. There's a bunch like LinkedIn. Depending on like where your clients are potentially going to be, it all kind of falls back to like where you think they're hanging out.
Now, when you use social media, you mentioned that you like having it up so that people who are already considering you have something of a verification system to go to kind of make sure that you're the real deal. Do you
Yeah.
also get like, say, cold calls from your work on social media as well?
We have like a very integrated system. Like I do not like phone calls. So we have no way to just cold call me. I'm like a weirdo though. I know a lot of law firms prefer people calling in to like inquire about services. But we get now these days with the way that the content goes out, we get people looking for a lawyer in like different areas, different industries. So now we're in a place where we have to like find other lawyers. I don't even handle all these areas of law. So there's people that are randomly that just like, I need a family law attorney. Can you help me? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. We don't do that. So that is another potential benefit of being online if you are looking to be in a place where you can refer clients out.
And what would you say your number one? So one of the big ways that lawyers get clients when they own their own business is through referrals, of course. Um, do uh, what would you say your biggest referral source would be? Who gives you the most cases? What category of people?
Our previous clients are our best referral source. We have some referrals from other attorneys now and then, but it really again depends on the area of law. Like if you have really high stakes potential matter that's like going to go to trial and like you probably want to go through a referral and you're probably not going to just be like Googling the type of attorney that can help you. Maybe, who knows? But referrals are really important just to keep in touch with potential people that you know can refer you cases. There's plenty of referral websites. We are on one called Overture. I know there's a bunch of others that you basically can like tell people that you have a matter to be referred, or you can look for clients to be referred to you. Just like generic networking and like going to events and meeting people. It's also just outside the law. Like we have really good relationships with CPAs and anybody that does like financial stuff and tax stuff because their clients are always asking legal questions. So they kind of send them over to us and vice versa. So finding also other professionals that are running in the same circles.
So I got into a little bit of an argument last night with my friend who's a financial advisor. He claimed that he was in the most regulated industry in the world, and I said, I don't know. You know, attorneys, we kind of are going to give you a little bit of run for your money for how many regulations we have to comply with. So move on to the next slide, and I want to hear a little bit about your methods for making sure that your marketing strategies are compliant with uh, rules of professional conduct or whatever the rules that you're subject to. Or you're in California, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do to avoid the pitfalls described in these slides?
Yeah. So I mean, the rules are there. You can go look them up and see if you're complying with them. There's also, I believe there's an ethics hotline that you can call. So I did that a lot initially, like being on social media, asking like, hey, can I say these things or do these things? I called them and I was like, hey, is this okay under the rules? Which I think is a really great tool. But I mean, general like business advertising, it applies to lawyers too. Like we can't use false or misleading statements. So if you are going to kind of ties in with like advertising requirements. If you are going to be talking about like client successes that you have, if specifically if you're like talking about a settlement that you secured or like very specific details about a client success, you have to make it very clear that that's like not every single client of yours is going to have that happen potentially. You have to have disclaimers up that you are advertising and that it's an attorney advertising essentially trying to solicit clients. There's a lot of solicitation restrictions. We can't like hop into somebody's DMs and be like, hey, do you want to hire me? I see that, you don't have a blah, blah, blah. The same kind of rules that exist with law firms, but if you're working at a law firm or go work for a law firm, they usually have an entire department handling this stuff. If you go out on your own, you are the one that's responsible for knowing all these rules. They seem daunting, but once you kind of get the hang of them, they're easy to kind of follow.
Do you have any kind of like quality assurance process or anything for, say, your social media posts to ensure that there's nothing that's being said that might make someone want to come at you with a claim that you're breaking the rules or something like that?
Yeah, I'm quality assurance. So I do all of our socials. I do all the marketing still. I just really love it. I think if you have a team helping you, you really should be have an eye on like what's going out. If they're prepping stuff for you, if they're doing videos for you, if they're prepping content for you, you really should have an eye on at least what's going out. We also, something I did very early is I hired an ethics attorney, just to ask her questions about like, hey, if I'm wanting to advertise this like potential new area, like what does that look like? How do I go about that? So I think if that's affordable, or just hiring them on a consultation basis, I think it's like totally worth the money because I ask her a million questions all the time.
All right. Well, let's transition to the next slide, and we will pivot to some more discussion about legal considerations and ethics, because that's what everybody loves to talk about. Um, all the ways that you can get in trouble, and we'll bring Demetria back in. Um, so, wanted to ask you a little bit about when you first started your firm. Was there anything that kind of jumped out at you as I need to get this particular part of my practice in order so that I don't have to face scrutiny from either the bar or from any other um, agency, so that you could practice without having to deal with that kind of pressure?
Yes, thank you. So the first two things I did was get malpractice insurance. And then because I bill on an hourly rate in family law, we take retainers and clients typically pay upfront. So I needed a trust account. And so in addition to your operating business account, which should definitely be different than your just regular personal account, you should have an operating business account, and with that, you need a separate trust account. And a trust account is where the money comes in before you have earned it. It sits there until you earn it, and then, of course, you can move it to your operating account and pay yourself, pay your staff, pay whatever you need to pay. So those are the two things I think I got right in the beginning was setting up the accounts and definitely getting insurance. I know some people don't do malpractice insurance, but a field like family law where it's extremely emotional, there's a lot going on. I That's one expense that I would definitely recommend that you invest in is malpractice insurance.
What's the experience like for you? I know that maintaining the trust account and ensuring that it's everything is reconciled basically every month. Uh, how much of a challenge has that been for you in your practice to ensure that compliance requirement is done?
It is a challenge, and most um, software programs now they are coming into compliance with the state bar, so that's very, very helpful. But as of now, after this whole CTAP thing, and we'll talk about that a little after that came down, I have my bookkeeper do a reconciliation each month. So, in addition to what I do in my case, I also, in my case, will tell you by each client when the money came in, when the money came out, when you have transferred it over. So, in addition to, I use my case. So, in addition to the reports I have in my case, I also have a third party that does the reconciliation to make sure what is in my trust account is in my trust account. If I need to move things over or whatever the situation may be. I don't know how much you all heard about Tom Girardi. And that is a big reason why we have these wonderful CTAP requirements. And CTAP is just an overview of what everybody is doing with their trust accounts. And I was one of the very lucky people that got selected for an audit on my trust account. Um, and I definitely understand why the bar is doing it. That was a terrible situation. However, I am $8,000 in and I still don't have what they want me to do or not do or so I think it's overkill. That's just my personal opinion, not the opinion of Leap. It's definitely overkill. However, if you are in a profession such as, I believe, employment, family law, when you're taking money, you have to be very, very cautious of what you're doing in your trust account. If there's one thing you will get in trouble for, it's mismanaging your trust account. Now, with the CTAP audits, what it's my understanding, they just want to make sure everyone is kind of in compliance. But I feel like the main dirty work with Mr. Girardi was already done. I don't know if a lot of attorneys are operating, like that, but we are all going to reap what he sowed, basically. So if you're managing a trust account, best believe it needs to be in top shape. You should not be moving money out of your trust account until it is earned. And if you have not been audited yet as attorneys, you will be if you operate a trust account.
Right. And as attorneys, we are fiduciaries to our clients as well. So we
Right.
have additional obligations to them above and beyond just not stealing. We have to actually even account for them as carefully as we possibly can. So
Yes.
a lot of stuff, a lot of duty that's placed on us in terms of making sure that our trust accounts are accurate.
Right. You're trusted with other people's money, and that's very, very important. So, um, just make sure you are managing it. And when the time comes, I highly recommend a bookkeeper or someone that can help you make sure that you are following all the rules and doing what you're required to do.
Right. So let's move on to the next slide. Um, so these are some of the model rule or some of the rules of professional conduct. And I just wanted you to speak kind of briefly on what you consider your obligations under these particular rules.
Right.
Um,
I I think
but
Oh, thank you. I think it's very, very important that you always are learning, right? This is called the practice of law. So that means things are always changing. As we go to remote hearings and AI and all these different things, I think it's very, very important to always learn. I always do well beyond what is required for MCLEs every year because I want to know what's going on. I want to make sure I am always on top of my field, that I know what new laws come down, that I know what procedures are happening in the court. So it's very, very important that you keep learning, right? Even when you become successful and you're living your dream life, it's very, very important that you keep learning. Um, to Iberi's point, we communicate all the time. I have somebody in my office that is employed to communicate with clients, to ask questions, to see how they're doing, to see if they need anything, to see if they need updates on their case. Whatever it is, she responds, and she responds the same business day because that's what I've employed her to do, is make sure, especially in family law, because everyone is already super emotional. They want to know as soon as possible what's going on. So we have someone in office that is what she does. She takes care of our clients. I have anyone that works with me, they do have to sign a confidentiality agreement. We should not be talking about our cases because we do represent celebrities. We're in LA, so you're gonna get that. So we should not be discussing who we represent. You will not see me on social media disclosing who I represent. There are some clients that might come on my podcast and speak, that's separate, But outside of that, you should not share names or details that people can figure out who you're talking about. So confidentiality is very, very important. And in my business, this is starting to happen to me recently. Someone might call me to conflict me out from representing their spouse. So you have to make sure that there is a system in place before I even get on the phone. My staff does a conflict check. Have I talked to the other party? Have they even called the office? What is their interaction, if any? In most cases, if I've talked to the other spouse, I won't even take the consult with the other party. I just don't want those headaches. If I think I want to represent the other spouse, I won't even take the call of the first spouse. But if you don't have a way to track that, you would not know. And that's very, very important. You never want a situation where someone says, "Oh, I talked to Demetria 6 months ago," right? And you didn't know. So it's very, very important that there's a system in place so you can outline who you talked to, when you talked to them, what was the nature of your conversation. And then after each consult, it's extremely important that you shoot, it can be a short email. Thank you for the consultation. At this point, I'm not going to be able to represent you, or whatever the situation may be. So it's clear on what the expectations are going forward, or if you take the case or not.
All right, thank you. So
You're welcome.
you did a great job talking about the trust accounting, which is our next slide, and then the next slide is conflict checks. So we've covered that.
Mhm.
So why don't we move down to the AI slide, because this is a very hot topic, and a lot of people are thinking about it, are worried about it. Lawyers are getting sanctioned for doing it. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your experience with AI and what you do to ensure that your usage of it is appropriate.
Yes. Myself and my staff, we do not use AI for legal research. You still need to do your typical, whatever sources you use for legal research, stick to that. AI is good for if you want to make sure it's properly worded or things of that nature. That's kind of how we use AI right now. If my staff is not strong in writing a memo on a certain area, I will have them drafted and they can run it through AI to make sure it flows in the way that they want it to. But AI still has a way to go with legal research. There are programs now that are better than others in terms of legal research, practice pointers, and that sort of thing. I think LexisNexis has a program now that they're working on. So there are definitely programs. I don't trust it that much just yet. But to your point, us lawyers, got an email today about AI and the trends of AI and how the bar is working to get us more materials about how we can appropriately use AI. And I think one of you said it already is AI is a great tool. It will be a great tool, but it should not be used to solely write your legal briefs and that sort of thing. Lawyers have been heavily sanctioned for submitting briefs that were incorrect or the law just didn't exist. So even with that, if you're going to use it for that purpose, make sure you cross-reference with what you know to be true, right? We don't want you in court citing something that does not exist, and you will be heavily sanctioned.
Another quick fun fact about me is I'm going to file a sanctions motion against a law firm for using hallucinated cases
Ooh.
in a motion to dismiss, and I'm filing that tomorrow. So pitfalls are great. I think in the Central District there was recently a sanction for $30,000 for using hallucinated AI,
Yep.
federal court. So definitely this is a very big deal for lots of judges. Wanted to ask you also, one of the things I've heard about some people are worried that AI is threatening the hourly billable model. Do you have any concerns about that or strategies about how to deal with that?
I think in general, people are getting over the hourly model. So in my field, it's harder, but we have tested a more flat fee for, different stages of the case to kind of see how that works. And yes, AI can definitely cut down on the writing of a motion, not the law, but writing a motion can be done in uh, 10 minutes now versus 2 hours. So to stay afloat in this time, day and age, you're gonna have to come up with a different way to bill. If it's block billing, if it's whatever you come up with, but definitely what we used to take, like for instance, in family law, we write a lot of declarations, motions. AI can do that in seconds. So you're not having the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of billing. So we're definitely going to have to come up with new ways to bill. I think lawyers are still very, very important. We still need to be able to appear and argue our motions with the real law. So that still exists, but yes, there's going to have to be another way to bill that makes sense now that we do have AI that can do it in seconds.
Yeah, and that was a big reason why I decided to do pure contingency work because I don't want to deal with the hourly model anymore. But
Mhm.
excellent commentary. Thank you.
Someone asked, let me see, it's a supervisor question, but um, I worked for the government. I always had a supervisor who could look at my briefs, look at my motions. We could talk over trial strategy. When you have your own practice, you don't have a supervisor. And we don't need all of you to answer, but just if one of you could answer, like, how do you deal with that where you don't have someone looking at your work?
Well, just to follow up on what Drew and I were discussing, now you do have AI that can help you with formatting and word choices and that sort of thing. You still have to make sure the law is correct, but now you do have that resource. And I think as you get more versed in your career, you kind of know what the judges are looking for and what's appropriate to submit to the court. But I mean, that's one of the um, I guess, benefits of being on your own. You learn what's important. You learn what the judges want, and AI that is a tool now that you can use to check your work.
So one of our law school hopefuls or law student hopefuls asked, were there any classes or clinics or externship experiences that you had in law school that helped prepare you to become a law firm owner? And again, anyone can, I'm going to ask Ibiere.
I was engaged in answering these wonderful questions in our Q&A, so I missed the question. What is
Oh,
the
okay,
question?
okay. So while you were in law school, were there any classes you took or clinics or externships that you did to help you
Yes,
prepare to go on to become a law firm owner?
yes. So I will go back to the time when I was first of all, I didn't learn much in law school. Don't tell Loyola that.
Shh.
In terms of how I practice law, so little. I mean, I didn't figure out what the law was until I started practicing law. And none of it made sense. It was all theory. It's all theory. But I can tell you, like I joke with Professor Williams at Loyola, I did not learn evidence until I was objected to. And I was like, oh, that's
Absolutely.
hearsay. Good to know. Um, the one thing that I can say was really helpful for me is are any sort of class that will get you in the field, any sort of internship, externship, practicum. So I did a civil rights internship where I was working at any inner city law center, suing slumlords. I did the DA clinic where I was working as a certified law clerk, and I was actually examining police officers on the stand. I did the burn trial advocacy team, which I think really helped me because it opened my eyes to the possibility of what it meant to be a true trial lawyer. I was on my feet and I was loving it and I fell in love with it. And I said, this is what I want to do. Um, it were those sorts of classes, but also don't, I also tell people for law school, what it also helped me understand is what I didn't want to do. I said, I don't want to do real estate. I don't want to do anything. I didn't want to do contract. God bless you, Taylor. I don't want to look at any contracts, family law. Ha ha. Keep drop. You can have that drama, Demetria. I just knew what I didn't want to do. And that has value too. So go through the motions, check off the boxes, cross them out, whatever you have to do, but get your hands dirty. When I say get your hands dirty, figure out a way to at least pretend to be a lawyer while you're in law school. That's the real flex. If you can do that, you're off to a good start. I'll go back to answer my questions and I'll put my information in the chat. Okay.
And this is funny because I know you and I know Taylor, right? When you were in law school and first practicing, you did not want to go to court. So you and Ibiere are completely opposite, but you know that about yourself, right? All right, we have a question. Can the panelists share how you deal with dud clients? So those who don't show up to free consultations or scheduled meetings if already a client. I'm not really understanding that part, but kind of
So
the dud clients.
so I can answer this. This is a twofold for me. One, I can, as a sole practitioner, you have discretion now, right? You get to decide who you want to work for. You can put in your retainer agreement. If we reach an impasse and we can't communicate any longer, I have the right to fire you. And if you don't like what I'm doing, you have the right to fire me. And so you can part ways amicably. Everything is good. For clients who I can no longer communicate with, I can't, there's a lack of trust. And so I part ways that way. Also, I am a lot more I spent a lot of time at the initial intake process, just getting to know the person. And I will turn away cases where people say, "Have you lost your mind?" My motto is, all money is not good money. I don't want the headache. Please, I'm not the right lawyer for you. I can give you 5 other names, find someone else. It has to be a match. And I tell people I'm very upfront. What you see is what you get. Some people love it, other people don't. And that's it. But you have to, you do not want to have a fight with a client. They will always win. They almost always win, especially if they have the state bar, they weaponize the state bar. You don't just you have it has to be a right fit. So the duds, let them go, wish them well, and pray for them. And then a wonderful client will walk in your door. It always happens that way. So.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are about out of time, and I want to make sure that, we said it was going to be an hour and 15 minutes, so I want to make sure that we're very timely. Given that a lot of the people who are attending today are LEAP fellows or other future law students, I'm wondering if just you could, each of you, and Drew, I want to include you, just briefly, any advice you have for these future lawyers. And Taylor, we'll start with you.
I feel like I say this all the time, but try to reach out to as many lawyers or anybody in legal field as you can. I've gotten really cool opportunities just from people like I've met on social media, which is so cool. So don't be nervous to reach out to people. Worst thing they're gonna do is like ignore you or not get the message. So I'm like the shyest, most introverted person in the world, and I've found ways to like message people all over the place, and sometimes it's very helpful.
Thanks, Taylor. Drew?
My advice would be prepare to work hard and prepare to master your craft. Become very, very good and very, very knowledgeable about what you're doing. And to me, that is the key to success. There's no secret sauce. There's no tricks. There's nothing except learning what you do and learning how to do it well.
I love that. Demetria?
I was just typing this to an attendee. Just keep going, right? There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be days you want to go get a job. But I say keep going. Like I said, this is probably the best decision I've made in my career.
And last but not least, Ibiere?
Oh my gosh, be kind. I mean, treat people well, you know, like don't burn bridges, don't dog people out, don't steal. The stuff you learned in kindergarten, like the stuff my daughter was like, Mama, that stuff. Go back to the basics. It will serve you well in the profession. Trust me. Smile, do good work. Just, 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 just be a good person. Good things will happen. Then what
It's
happened?
true. Oh, that's a perfect, and it's so perfect in what's going on in our climate in this world. That is
Yeah.
such good advice. And it's so funny you're saying be kind. I was actually thinking I might, this is TMI, but I might be getting my first tattoo. I know, weird. Um, Long story, but I was thinking of getting like a little heart and say be kind, just to remind me. And I thought that's kind of pathetic that I would put something on my body to remind me. But I want to thank all of you for your time. For those of you who came, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. This was really great information. You have all of their emails, etc. You can look on here. We're going to be sending you, this is especially for the attorneys, to get CLE credit. We'll be sending you evaluations. I know there's a deadline to get them in. But thank you, everybody. And we're going to try to do these at least once a quarter. I think the next one we're going to do is probably going to be immigration and asylum. I'm saying that now, even though we have not even reached out to anyone, so I'm manifesting it. But thank you. And for the LEAP fellows who are in cohort 7 and you're in NorCal, I'll see you this weekend.
Can I just plug Demetria? She has a wonderful podcast. What's your podcast, Demetria?
Oh, thank you. It's called
Okay.
Legally Uncensored.
Very good. And
Thank
Taylor,
you.
if you don't know, she's a celebrity. She's Instagram famous. Instagram famous. I'm loving your tweets. Are they tweets now? I don't think you call them tweets anymore, but whatever it is, they're good. They're good. Love you both. So good to
Thank
see
you,
you. Thank you,
Ibiere. Good to
Cindy.
see
Thank
you
you.
all.